It's the 20th day of February 2025, and of course, it happens to be the International Day of Social Justice. But this morning on Good Morning Anambra show, we'll be looking at social justice as a tool for ending sexual and gender-based violence.
Well, my name is Ajuru Chukwu. If you're just joining us, welcome to what we have for you this morning. And I'm sure justice will be served after this session that we are having. Don't go anywhere.
All right, we're trying to find out actually the nature of this gender-based violence and of course challenges that will prefer solution. So you can join us on our Facebook page to drop your comments on what you think could be done. In the studio, we've been joined by two people that will help us look at the topic. Barrister Nnenna Anozie. Barrister Nnenna Anozie is a Community Mobilization Officer, WAPMA Foundation. And we also have in the studio Mr. Obi Ibebunam, Minister, Dunamis Church. You're all welcome to the studios of the Morning Anambra Show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
All right. I think ladies first.
Yeah.
Let me begin with you here. You know, when we talk about, let's start with talking about gender-based violence. You know, what actually is gender-based violence?
All right. Thank you so much. When we talk about gender-based violence, or if you like, you add sexual and gender-based violence, we are talking about any kind of harm, any kind of pain inflicted on someone based on the person's gender. It could be physical harm, it could be verbal abuse, it could be economic abuse where you make someone to depend on you before the person can eat, before the person can gain access to certain financial favor. It could take the form of rape, sexual harassment, sexual abuse of any kind. These are more harmful traditional practices, early child marriage, and the rest of them can be likened as sexual and gender-based violence, as long as it is perpetrated against someone based on the person's gender.
And it could be male or female?
It could be male or female. Yes, it could be male or female. Yes, it could be male or
Because
female.
most times when you talk
Gender
about
is not,
gender-based violence,
yes.
people think it's just about female.
No, gender is both male and female, and that's why, like, the law we are using now to prosecute offenders is violence against persons prohibition law. Okay. So persons could be anybody. Yes.
Now, talking about adding violence, you just something now. From what you gathered now, you said there could be economic violence where people that stood before God and man to profess their love for one another and agree to go into the union of marriage, and then a man now tells the wife, I'm capable of taking care of you. Sit down and take care of the children. Does that happen to be gender-based violence too?
Yes, it is gender-based violence when that woman does not want it. It's against her wish. Imagine as a lawyer, after going to law school, instead of me to practice or do whatever I want to do as a lawyer, my husband says, no, sit down and take care. And that is also to... I always talk about it because people don't see it as gender-based violence. They will say, after all, the man provides. He provides, but this woman wants to work.
But if it's there's an agreement, it's
if the woman agrees that I want to stay back, but that is because we have an assigned roles for particular genders in this, especially in this African continent. You see people assigning role of taking care of the home just to the woman alone, so that it becomes violence. But if anybody who can do it, if the man decides to even be the one to take care, some men are better care givers. I mean, caregiving work is not reserved for women alone. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
So,
Right.
so if the man is the one, but if the man is the one taking care, some people will say that the woman is using the of the man. But if the woman agrees that, okay, don't worry, because of the nature of our family, you can keep on going to work, let me take care of it. It's not an abuse. It becomes an abuse when this woman doesn't want to stay at home, and you force her to stay at home. It becomes an abuse.
Let me come to the minister here, Mr. Obi. Talking from the part of the Bible, you know, you went to theological school, and then we all know the stance of man in the family, and then we know the stand of a woman who is meant to be the helper and the rest of it all. What she said now, does it in any way, does it go in tandem with the teachings of our Bible? As Africans, then you now talk about Christianity.
In the first place, as an African, I always don't alienate our cultural values in our homes. Then again, as a Christian, there should be a balance around us. And we are in a contemporary society, and society is evolving. And because society is evolving, there are certain expectations. In the time past, we don't have education. When we had education, we limited it to the male. And now, a lot of things started happening. But when it comes to home now in the contemporary society, and as a Christian, from the Christian perspective, it is expected that there is always going to be an understanding between two parties. Marriage is a tripartite arrangement. And if we go to the Bible, there are places where there are roles aside from domestication that the woman, God has apportioned to the woman. Like in Proverbs, he said, oh, the woman who can bring in sheaves. That she's a virtuous woman. Who is a virtuous woman? Bringing sheaves into the courtyard, into the compound of the husband. And that means that she goes out, walks, and brings in. So from time immemorial, biblically, women are permitted to work. But as it stands now, you know, people have discussions in a contemporary society, and oftentimes marriages are they have disconnect in mindset as regards roles of men and women in the home. So, but what should be ideal? Consent, agreement, understanding in the home. As soon as there is an understanding, then you go. But looking at the societal realities, where you find out that things don't work out very well economically in the home, you see, asking a woman to sit back and not do anything may be far-fetched. Like the young generation now, no one, how much is a man in a civil in a place? You understand, except exceptional cases. And how many exceptional cases are there? Less than 10% in the society, where you see a man that is comfortably disposed to take care of a home in totality. So what we are seeking and saying is there should be a kind of consent and an understanding. That's it.
All right. Now, you are always in the field as advocates of, gender-based violence. And over time, we've seen so many cases around and how it's being handled. Even with the recent one that happened at Ifitedunu and all other ones, do you think that it is being handled, the way it is being handled is the right way, and that we are getting it right as a people?
Okay, I'm to answer that. All right, thank you so much. When we look at the issues of sexual and gender-based violence and the way perpetrators are handled, and even the survivors, victims, you discover that we are not yet there. Because what we are preaching now is survivor-centered approach, where you think about the welfare of the survivor or the victim. But in the society where we belong, we see people blame the victim for either being the cause. For instance, a man cuts off the wife's hand, and they say, oh, it's because she talks too much. It's because she came back late from wherever. Like the case you cited. They say, oh, the woman is not a good woman. She always comes back late. But a man comes back late. The wife does not have the right to ask him, where are you coming from? And then, most times, perpetrators are not even punished in a way that everybody will see it, and it becomes a deterrent to others. You still see the person walking freely on the road, or you still see people trying to negotiate, maybe because of some interest and all of that. So we really need to begin to, I always tell people, as long as someone benefits from an injustice, it's not an injustice to the person. So as long as people benefit from this sexual and gender-based violence, they won't see it as violence. But I thank God that we are having laws in place like this VAP law we are talking about that has expanded a lot of things, a lot of acts to constitute violence. For instance, before now, when you talk about rape, rape was not defined in the way it is defined in the law now. All right? So rape now, according to the VAP law, now includes even the usage of an object. So you don't have to just be when the rape thing happens. So it can be when a man uses an object without the person's consent, whether you put it in the man's, in the anus, mouth, or, you know. So this helps to ensure that perpetrators don't go free. When you just come and see a woman, you are fondling with the woman without the woman's consent, it now constitutes rape. The same thing happens when a man wakes up one day and decides that this woman and the children are not good for me. I can just abandon them without any means of survival. You leave them and abandon them. The VAP law is against you. So many others. So the way we are handling it, I don't think in Africa we have seen this definition of violence according to this VAP law as the right thing. And that's why it took a lot of states time to domesticate it. You know, it was a national law enacted in 2015. It took other states time. Anambra State was one of the states that domesticated it early enough. But this, what are we saying? Are we seeing justice? How many people have been prosecuted under this VAP law?
That's what I want.
You understand? How many people have been, yes, how many people have been prosecuted under this VAP law? So we are not doing enough as it stands now, because people are not seeing those things as violence. They will say, how can you tell me that verbal abuse is violence? My wife, I talk to my wife anyhow, or my wife talks to me anyhow. How can you tell me? And this is our culture. You tell me I cannot mutilate my girl child. It's not my child. I decide what happens. So people have not come to terms with some of the definitions of what constitutes violence according to the law. But of course, whether they agree or not, it does not change the fact that it's now the law. And it's been domesticated, gazetted, we can use it in the law courts to prosecute offenders.
Ignorance of the law.
It's not law, it's not an excuse.
Well, talking about ignorance of the law not being an excuse, I still maintain the fact that first and foremost, before education came to our domain, we were Africans, and somehow we were traditionalists. So now, how do you marry what your organization is trying to propagate with the culture, customs, and tradition of the area where you're domiciled? Take, for instance, Nigeria is diverse in demography. What is obtainable in the northern part of Nigeria might not be obtainable here, because they'll tell you that their religion and their customs and tradition prohibit, doesn't accept this. So now, based on, you say you're not doing enough. Now tell us, do you put the law above customs and tradition in order to confine people to doing what you guys want to do?
Thank you. Everybody, anywhere you go, people have their culture, people have their belief. And you cannot, because of whatever you're doing, the advocacy say, oh, this laws. But we're talking about the traditions that are harmful.
Mutilation is some people's custom or tradition.
Good. But now we have found out that it does not do any good to the child. We now dialogue with these practitioners of this tradition. What do you stand to gain in mutilating a child, for instance, a girl child? And you say, oh, it's to avoid promiscuity. And this is the exclusive right of this girl child, to enjoy her sexual life. There's no other reason you do this. It is for the child, the girl child, not to be promiscuous. And then we have found out that it even leads to promiscuity. And then medically, that it is not healthy, because these practitioners are not even well trained. They are not qualified medical practitioners. So we are looking at those obnoxious traditions that are against natural justice, equity, and good conscience. It's not every tradition that is harmful. We are talking about harmful traditional practice, where a widow, for instance, is meant to go and swear that you did not kill your husband, or drink the water from birthing your dead husband, just to prove your innocence. What happens to our courts, our judicial system? Why can't you go there? Why do you take laws into your hands and you hide on that? Because this whole gender-based violence is entrenched and rooted in traditional beliefs, religious beliefs. You know, a woman, you should be submissive under the religious teachings. Therefore, whatever is happening to you, don't talk. Whatever anybody is doing, do it. So we are not saying, let us do away with all the tradition, let us do away with all the religious beliefs. But we are saying those ones that are harmful to humans.
Okay, let me come in. Obi, you know, I don't know how these things are being done to ensure that people are enlightened to be able to align with what you're, because, you know, as the
truth of the matter, the truth of the matter is that we all know that society is evolving, and give and take norms, certain norms, especially the harmful traditional norms that affects the woman or any of the genders, are now getting out of vogue.
If we can reduce mourning from 1 year to 3 days,
okay,
you know, there's nothing impossible.
It's evolving. That's why I'm saying it's evolving. Now, a lot of people are getting educated. A lot of people are moving from the rural and the traditional area to the contemporary society. You understand? And because of that, a lot of laws, common sense dictates that there are some certain things that are not even good. And we have been bombarded with enough knowledge to note that there are some certain things you will do that, one, are not socially acceptable. Because we are talking about social justice here. There are some things that are not, common sense will even tell you that they are not right. But some traditional institutions will want to be dogmatic. And we want to stick to it that, oh, if why are you rapia? Like the recent traditional herbalists, what they do now, even them, they are evolving. Even them are beginning to see the need for them to discard some certain activities that are harmful to the society generally. You understand? So now, from the perspective of the Christian faith, we know that everybody, God built the society to be harmonious. You live and let another person live. You understand? Also, brethren, let us live together in one accord. You understand? Let us live together in one accord. 1 John 4, 7 and 8. You understand? Definitely, it is when you live in harmony, you see prosperity coming into force. Why is the foreign countries great? Especially America. America is a typical case of a Christian country. And Christian country, they became the soldiers of the world, helping where societies are being. There are issues even in the Islamic countries where there are women that are in hijab or whatever they call it are abused. So a lot of voices are being lent in that direction. And some Islamic countries are becoming contemporary, and they are living those dogmatic Islamic laws that tend to affect justice. Because we are talking about justice for both genders. So if some certain social justices are not in tandem with the contemporary world, then a lot of people will not accept it. So coming back to our African setting, traditions we are beginning to see the other side of traditions, that they are not socially acceptable. And because they are not socially acceptable, justice must be meted out. People must speak. People must lend credence and give their voice to it. And like yesterday, we had a very good conversation during the workshop of WABMA. You understand? Where the Igwes are even coming out to talk, and they are eager to effect changes in their domain. And it's a good development for us. And in moving forward, a lot of these issues of social injustices will be mitigated seriously. So coming to any traditionality, dogmatism cannot help us move forward as a society.
Just like some of them are now having women in their cabinets, some of the traditional rulers. It wasn't so before, my brother. Because you're asking, are we going to change the tradition? We are not changing the tradition. We are just saying, those ones that are harmful, let them be jettisoned. Let's welcome innovations. Let's welcome fairness, social justice. So these women are now in Igwe's cabinet. They are now sitting with the Igwes and discussing. It was not so before. Respectfully. It was not so before. So these are the things you are talking about. No, a woman is not bereft of reasoning and leadership qualities because of her gender. She can sit on the same table with men and discuss reasonably and proffer, solutions to the happenings around. So that is it. But before now, men see women as, there are things that happen. Oh, why? Oh, why? But women are all over now. They are pilots. They are in so many fields that areas that were dominated by men before.
I'm not opposed to a woman or women aspiring to be whatever they want to be in life. Yes. Never. In fact, I champion the cause of women. But my next question is going to be to you, Barrister Nnenna. Now, statistics shows that abroad, that is leaving your own country and traveling abroad, the worst case of divorce we have are blacks, African American origin. You don't have that with Indian, Asian origin, the Chinese origin. Why do we, the foreign lands, most times, their laws tend to favor the women more than it favors the man, and thereby exploiting men. Many men have been turned from millionaires to beggars. Some have even gone to the extent of even taking their lives. You understand? On account of working so hard, and then a woman comes in seeing that you're now rich, and now, will I say just formulate one thing and then get you in trouble. And then the woman now has virtually everything you have. What is the women, since we're talking about social justice, this is a cry for men, because a lot of men, this is a cry. This is a cry. Justice for men. This is a lot of men. In fact, as I speak to you, I have a friend that is on the verge of deportation because of the woman he took abroad.
Yes, thank you.
And these are things that are happening. But nobody seems to be speaking for these men in the wilderness.
Okay, you see, we can't take away the fact that someone's upbringing plays a huge role. Intentions and motives. And how did you even come about yourselves getting married in the first place? You understand? So your upbringing, and that's why we are telling parents, when you are raising your children these days, don't raise them the way our mothers and fathers raised us before, where the woman is only raised to go to wife, domestic, and nothing like exposing the woman to leadership and other skills. She's there to just be a good wife, and then nobody raises the boy child. That boy child turns out to become lazy about everything in the home. He's not domestic at all. He doesn't know how to cook. He doesn't know how to keep the house. And then coming to the abroad, he's talking about. In abroad, everybody is busy working. The wife will go. There's nothing like Moria. You will go to work. You will do things. So when everybody is working, and the man still wants that African mentality of being a job, you go to work, you come back, you take care of the home, you do this. The woman will now speak out. Before now, women saw it as normal. That was the norm. But with exposure and everything, women are now coming out to say, no, this thing is now too much. I can't bear this anymore. How can I be going to work, come back, do this? I am tired. Could you please help me? If he's washing, wash for me while I'm cooking. Once you say that, that's taboo. Okay, he will call from there abroad to home. Can you imagine my wife asking me to wash? Can you imagine my wife asking me to cook? But, so that is why, because they don't have that orientation or training here in Nigeria before they travel, when they go there, they discover that life is not easy. Everybody has to work hard. So when that is done, you don't expect that the same woman you married from Nigeria will still be doing the same thing there. So you have to balance it by making sure that any way you can help,
go abroad and now falsify, accuse you wrongly that you beat up, you malhandle, so that police will now come.
Wait,
and
that one is an exceptional, because that's why I say upbringing.
We're not talking about
that's what I'm saying.
About a man doing a job.
That happens here too. You can see people who frame that. Oh, I was raped. Yes. I enter your office. Maybe I'm asking you for a favor and you refuse. It started even from the Bible. Yeah. Joseph and the Potiphar's wife. Yeah. I am raped. That one it depends on your upbringing. But when it has to do with chores, responsibilities, in abroad, they don't assign any role to any gender. Anybody that can do anything can do it at the same time.
Let me come in at this point. It's unfortunate that our men outside the country are experiencing this challenges. But to tell you the honest truth, it depends on, look, marriage, I always say, is a tripartite arrangement. You can never exclude the institution of, the place of God in marriage. You understand? The place of good tutoring in marriage. Most times, we let it go and think this is a physical thing. Most things that happen physically are coming from the spiritual realm. So I always encourage men, listen, come to the table. You know what is right. Express yourself. Speak, communicate, have a conversation between you and the woman you're getting married to. When you go there, please, for God's sake, a lot of these men are going haywire. Let me be honest, I'm a man. A lot of these men are going haywire out there. They could keep girlfriends, they could cheat, and women don't like such things. I am not saying nobody is infallible, but truth be told, there are some certain expectations you start doing. Before a woman is intuitive, a woman has third sense. What I call third sense, in the sense that she preempts tomorrow. So in your attitudinal disposition, presently, the woman will be taking stock. And when it gets here, she could take action. Now you now revert back to the fact that you brought her. You paid for her flight. You paid for her academics.
All right.
You understand?
I am not supporting a man.
Okay.
I am not supporting.
I know. Okay. I think this abroad marriage and violence abroad is a very big topic for another day. If you want to take a very short break, let's feel the pulse of the masses concerning the issue at hand.
Okay.
The program returns after now. Please do join us again.
Social justice is not possible here in Nigeria because of the kind of system we operate. Because here in Nigeria, for example, the rich has their way in everything. They can commit crime and they go free. But if the same crime is committed by the poor person, the law takes his course on the poor. But the law doesn't take his course on the rich, because they have their influence, their money. They can use the boat, find their way through in everything. So the system we are operating here in Nigeria does not guarantee social justice, but it can guarantee in advanced countries the rule of law prevails in every matter. But here in Nigeria, the rule of law doesn't prevail. If you have a case in court, court is the highest bidder right now. When you have money, you have your judgment in favor of you. But you don't have the money, you go in for it. So social justice is not possible here in Nigeria unless we change our system.
Ma judicial the last hope of a common person. Manatazi na obo yenwa ebe nwa atụkwasị obo. Were ipeje ibe adọ na akpọ nwere ihe bete. Akwa ko onye na we ebele fa. Ọ na ndị gbalụ n'isi. Anaghị kwa nka Chineke ma amala. Wete nzọpụta bido n'isi a wee revive kwa bịa to ibe a. Ibe ni na normalize ya. Nyawo na ndị ogbenye nwe aṅụle. Ọ iwe do na.
My own opinion is if we can emulate the Western world, if we can, follow their orientation, their mindsets, their ideology, the way they imagine things. I mean, the Western world, the white people. I think that is when we begin to practice that social justice. You can emulate them sincerely, yes, because they believe in the rule of law. They believe in law, That is why you see in the Western world, somehow it's like the law. Somehow people will begin to say, the law favor the women, and that's why you see a lot of divorces there. And somehow is somehow favoring the women, And what am I trying to say? They are practicing the law. They don't look at you. They just follow the law. If you fail it, you are penalized. You face the consequence of the law.
Why was Babun do not issue million? How much I will be about Gabon daughter, and I will never well bound. Now, a jaw on order my John or drum mount. I just when a guy with you on my make a buying. Nepunel, Ben, a mother will Nepunel, a mother will belly. Man also buying one Nepu, more belly. How much I am.
We have strong institutions that educate the environment and the society. Those institutions that ought to educate the society and the environment have so corrupt the system, which is education, which is church, which is mosques, which is tradition, and the social politics of the people. These are the classified institutions that are answerable to the social justice system.
Ibe gbasalụ justice system na Nigeria bụ kpọdolisi na ndị nwere ego na-eme otu o si dịfa mma ebe ndị ogbenye na-ata afụ so na ndị omebe iwu ga-eme iwu ya na-echekwaba ma ndị ukwu ma ndị nta iji mee ka onye ọbụla nweta ntaramahụhụ dịrị njọ ọbụla ọ kọmiti o melụ na Nigeria. So onye zuo ori sinye ntaramahụhụ dịrị ori dịka ka ori ozuru si dị si emezie ndị nnukwu mmadụ fabula ego fa nye ndị na-afụ maka ikpe ego fa na-aga nkịtị ebe ndị ụmụ ogbenye tụtụtala ibe n'azụ nọ ikikwe na agụgụ katala ọnya ọtụtụlụ ji mmadụ maọbụ ede mmadụ ọnya ahụ ejebe nga.
We are still talking social justice, a tool for ending sexual and gender-based violence, and that's what we are talking here. And we have the barrister Nena giving us hints on how to go about it, and we also have the man of God here, Mr. Obi, also throwing his weight on the same issue. But then, social justice, can we actually get a justice that is equitable? That is what we are asking.
All right, I think before we get to that point, let's look at the challenges, challenges being faced in the fight against sexual and gender-based violence before we really move down. I think we're going to use that question to wrap up the show. All right, quickly, Obi, if you can come in at this point.
I will come in and I must be emotional about this because we have a society that is a disconnect in the sense that the government, a lot is expected from the government. Like before now, we were talking about the justice system in America where there are some laws that tend to, from the perspective of the immigrant blacks, that it's not favoring them but favoring women. What I'm trying to say here is that the justice system must be effective. The survivor, the perpetrator must be given, must be served justice. You understand? But we have a weak system. We tend to marry humanity, or I don't know, benevolence with such incidences where, okay, I know you, please don't make this man suffer this thing. He didn't do it intentionally. Emotional intimidation comes into play on people that are trying to serve justice. You understand? We must have a dividing line. If this law is tenable, I don't think people will be abusing the law, knowing that once they go in there, there will not be organs at the top. One is pleading. What will the society say now when they know that my daughter is being raped? You understand? Will there be a stigma? But if the laws that has been enacted is potent, is effective, and it's given everybody his or her own justice, The survivor gets justice, the perpetrator gets served his own whatever, for his own punishment. I don't think a lot will be reduced. But because we have a weak system of governance, where legislative acts are often downplayed, where laws are often downplayed, and we are now like looking at it from the social perspective. What will this happen? What will this do? Okay, we want to take a man that is a breadwinner in a home to throw into prison. What will happen to his family, immediate family, and whatever, or vice versa? You understand? So a lot has to be done. We should hit it. The justice gravel has a meaning. Once that gravel is hit, case closed. You understand? But oftentimes we marry emotions, sentiments, a lot of things comes into play, and it's not giving us a leeway. So until we are able to make the the laws effective, everybody that is involved should play his or her own role very well. I think that's when we will we'll move forward, and there will be lesser cases of these incidences.
Yes, just to chip in another challenge we are having is culture of silence. A lot of people don't report, and when they don't report, we will not know. Some people are already used to the system. They condone abuse, and you see them dying in it. You see them,
emotionally depressed.
So this culture of silence is not helping matter at all. We should encourage people to speak out. Some of them are afraid of being stigmatized and all of that. Imagine saying that this thing happened to this person, or they should begin to speak out so that we can name and shame these perpetrators. So it's one of the challenges we are having. Don't hide. The law is there to protect you. We have a lot of people. We have civil society organizations fighting to end sexual and gender-based violence. So speak out and get help. Help is there.
Now you're talking about help being out there. In your course of duty and in this field that you are in, this foundation that you're taking care of, what happens to repeated, offenders? People that have committed this crime and then they come again and they commit it again under your investigation, under your watch. We see cases like that. What happens to them? Since the punishment being meted out is not weighty enough, they still go back.
It still boils down to what Mr. Obi said. We need to strengthen our judicial system. And, the laws have to be seen to be working. You understand? If the law is working and this person serves, of course, like I forgot to say, in this VAP law, there's register where offenders' names are kept. So what you do it the first time, your name is there. The second time, you can be denied access to a lot of things in the society. And so when people know that...
As in denied in the sense that no incarceration?
No, it depends on the offense committed. Every offense has its punishment.
Amount of punishment.
You understand? So you go and serve it. And once you go in there, you are an ex-convict. And, whether you even serve or you pay, because some judges may be lenient enough to give you option of fine. But even if you pay that fine, you are an ex-convict. And that is a serious stigma on your side. It can hinder you from traveling out of this country. It can hinder you from getting an employment. So when the masses know this, and that's why we keep advocating, if the masses know this, it will act as a deterrent to committing crimes. You can't keep on committing. And when they know you're a perpetrator, then you are gone. They will not give you a weightier...
There was a question he asked before that I said you should hold on. Talking about whether we can actually get this justice. And I want to add to it before you answer that social justice as a tool to fight sexual and gender-based violence, how best to use that tool so that we can get justice.
Okay. Do I come in? How best can we use the social justice? When we talk about social justice, we are looking at fairness, equity, respect for one another. We are looking at equality, because these things are interesting, gender inequalities. When you value a particular gender more than the other. So what tools are we going to use? We are going to use fairness, love for one another. See me as a human being. I don't know whether I look at some things that happen. I say, how can like in Enugu State, in January, a man wanted to cut the woman's head, as in he raised his machete to cut the woman's head. The woman defended herself with the hand, and the woman's hand was cut off. This is not a social media. I went to the hospital to see this woman. Her hand was cut off. So I'm like, are you not a human being? Before now, for you to even kill a chicken, you are afraid.
Both of them died.
Yes, it's true. Cut the man's manhood, and then the woman. Yes, you didn't see that, and the man, killed the man.
The man killed her immediately. I think from the paint or whatever.
So that is to tell you that we need to begin to act like human beings. We need to understand that you are not supposed to take. There are inalienable rights enshrined in our 1999 Constitution as amended. The right to life is what God has given to us. It is the same thing that nobody should take anybody's life. So if we begin to understand our laws, our value system, love for one another, these are the tools we should use. And then, of course, we use the tool of the law, because some people can never understand this. So the tool of the law has to be used. Then this preaching we are doing today on TV will be used. Advocacy, sensitization, appealing to people's conscience to begin to act like human beings that they are. This way we can see how we can, if not end it, at least reduce sexual and gender.
And then coming to the issue of, like my brother was saying, repeated perpetrators. It boils down to the holistic aspect of governance, given a system. Like in our correctional centers, there are no more prisons. Correctional centers are meant as, once you go in there, they will tell you 1,001 reasons why the offense you committed is wrong, and why in your next life or in your next dispensation of life, after serving there, you must take note and never to do it again. Now, the psychological implications. So, in a correctional facility, there are meant to be psychological and whatever therapies that should be there. So, once you are working, some people are, because they have been observed to, have the potential to live right again in some systems, in government, in some nations. They have this parole thing they talk about. You understand? So also, the government should be very, very intentional about making our institutions effective. Institutions that are disposed to correcting these anomalies in the society. Because we are talking about holistic social justice. If it's not holistic, then it's disjointed. And repetitions, the tendency of a repetition will happen. So we should be cognizant. It's at the front of the government to work on making institutions work for us as a people.
Thank you so much, but I know that in the case of seeking social justice, most of the perpetrators of crime, sexual-based crimes are more like violence, are people that comes from home. So the onus falls on parenting, first and foremost. If you train your child right, definitely that child will grow up to know the right and the wrong. Like Barrister Nena was talking about some homes where men don't do chores, women run everything and the rest of it all. Well, I don't know if that will be the reason why somebody will grow up and now feel that he's a king and then he doesn't do anything, you understand? But then, if growing up, using your parents as the first role models, you understand? Yes. You should learn from what parents do, because kids learn more what they see rather than what they are being told. So if a parent wants to avoid any of such things, though we pray nothing of such comes our way as parents, we need to invest time into bringing up our children in the like manner, because what we see on social media from youths, even elderly these days, is not actually appealing, not to our conscience or to the society. Then the government now needs to come in and then give right measure of punishment. Sincerely speaking, I see no reason why an offender should be loose on the streets, walking, irrespective of whatever fine you have paid. If you sexually abuse somebody, you understand, you rape somebody, you should pay the due fine. In fact, in some culture, they will tell you that rape is as good as murder, because you took something violently. So you should pay dearly for it. So let's Let's nip it there at the board. And
all right, you have seen from the horse's mouth, you've heard it, and you've watched them speak, that there's a possibility of ending sexual and gender-based violence when we use the right tools of social justice to do that. And of course, this is where we're wrapping up Good Morning Anambra show. I'll drive at the discussion segment for now. We'd like to thank you so much for coming here, Barrister Nenna Anozie.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you also, Mr. Obi Ibebunam, for being here.
My pleasure.
Thank you
very much.
All right, more coming up on Good Morning Anambra show. Please do stay.